Hello, everybody. This is your teacher Romantic, and I am giving a class on atlasing, which is the act of putting two pictures together so you can save a material slot. In this particular case, I'm going to do it with a face. So you might know that faces, well, all materials, or I should say all items in the game are going to have a limit of four materials. And for the faces, that can be a little challenging because that means that uh, the one material is the face, another material is the iris, a third material is going to be the eyebrows and the eyelashes, and the fourth material is the Reaper eyes. So most people, what they do is that they remove the Reaper eyes. For example, this particular um, phase has installed some custom teeth, so they remove the Reaper eyes in order to make room for that material. And I was asked if I could remove these horns and instead add these other ones. So that's basically what I'm going to do. These horns do not correspond to the original face, so it needs its own material slot. And that means that it also needs to use the Reaper Eyes material slot, right? So we're going to very quickly just grab the horns and I'm going to put them over in the end root of my other face, right? And I can just get rid of this particular face and I can also get rid of the original horns. And my pincer horns are now on the ground, so I'm just going to bring them up here. And I just need to make sure of two things. One, these horns are need to be also part of the group 3, like the teeth. The teeth are 3.1 and 3.2. So the horns I'm going to set up as 3.0. And I'm also going to make sure that in the modifiers, it's set up with the correct end root, which in this case should be the normal end root without the 001, this one. And with that, I can assure that it's going to animate with the head. So it's going to follow it as it should. Right. So now we have to get into the UV territory. In order to preview the UVs, what we do is we're going to open here another area. We do that with the right click, and I'm going to do a vertical split. And I'm going to change this editor type into the UV editor. Now here we can select the pictures that conform the textures. Just keep in mind that this is how Blender is saving them. This is not the original picture, so there might be like some weird things in coloration and things like that because it's just the way that Blender is kind of like reading the textures in order to show them to you. But this is not going to be very important to us. This is only a guide, basically. I want to I want to be able to look at the texture that is part of the horns, for example, so I can know how they fit. And if you're already familiar with other textures in text tools, whenever you put a picture or well, you put textures into text tools, their UV is going to be moved one square down. So, for example, I select here my horns and I go into edit mode, make sure that if it's not selected, I press A, so it's all orange, and that will display the UVs over here. Now, as I said, it's going to be one square down. So in order to make things a little easier for me later down the road, I'm going to click over here, press A, so I can select everything. And I'm going to do uh, key G and Y, and then the numpad 1. So with this, it will be aligned as it should be, and I can take a better look at like, oh, okay, this is how I want it to look later on. Cool. We're going to do the same thing with the teeth. So I'll just change the picture and I'll go select the diffuse for the teeth. Then I select if you have something that is made of different parts, you can just select both parts and go into edit mode, and it's going to do the same thing. Now, these custom teeth also have UVs where they shouldn't be, so I'm going to move them back. It should only take a moment. I click over here, press A, and I'm going to do G, and then X, because now I'm moving it on the X axis, and I'm going to do -4, right? So now my UVs are where they're supposed to, and I have an idea of what they should look like when I put them together later. So uh, we have the picture for the teeth and the picture for the horns that now I need to put together. Uh, I um, I put them together on Clip Studio because it was a diffuse, and the diffuse doesn't really carry any other information other than the colors and the main look of everything. But uh, this is this is how I set it up. So the textures for the teeth are very, very big. So instead, I just adjust it to the scale of the horns. Um, you have to keep in mind when you're setting up the dimensions of the picture, you want to make sure that it's set up as to the power of 2. Don't ask me why. That's what I've been told, and I've heard that some people experience problems when that's not the case. So, since this picture was already set up like that, I simply doubled the size exactly, and I scaled down the teeth in order to make it into the same format and the same size. And with this is right now the only thing that I need for the purposes of aligning the UVs. So with this, I can just go back to Blender, and I am going to open this picture. I can just close here the one that I have, which is going to give me this little folder, and I can go and open the the fuse. And now that it's open, I can go and click my horns, go into edit mode, and I will be able to see them like this. However, right now, if I decide to move them, it's not going to it's not going to reflect the current picture that I want, because the material that is set up for the horns is different. So if I want to be able to look at it while I am adjusting and everything, the ideal thing would be I'm going to open a new area as a horizontal split, and I'm going to go into the shader editor. This is going to show you how Blender is reading the textures basically. It's not information that will be saved um, on your model when you export it, so don't worry about it. This is more like when you are going to bake textures and things like that. But for the visual purposes, it will be helpful if we remove all of the little nodes that are connected here. We only want to keep the base color, right? So the base color is using the diffuse, but it's currently using the diffuse for the horns. So I'm going to select here, and I'm going to look for the new diffuse that I set up with the new UV. And of course, it's going to be completely messed up because it no longer corresponds to the picture that we had before. So now that I can look at it, I go back to the UV editor, I select all of my islands, and I'm going to basically use the S key, which is for scale, and the G key with the different axes. So for example, here, because it's so wide, I'm going to press S and then X, so I can scale it down only with the width. And then I'm going to press G and X, so it only moves on this axis. And I'm going to try to adjust it as I remember it was previously in the when it was only one picture. Just going to slowly. Here we go. That looks pretty good, right? It's already well set, I think. So now that it looks fine here, I can move to the next one, which is the teeth. The teeth share a material, so they have a different setup here in the nodes. So again, I'm going to just disconnect all of them. This is mostly because sometimes, particularly the normals, can mess up how um, your diffuse looks like, and it can be a little confusing, and you'll be like, oh, I can't make it look right, and it turns out that it's because other textures are affecting the look of it. So we're only going to leave the base color again, and we're going to select our diffuse, and again, this is obviously not going to look right at first, but again, we go back to the UV editor, and we do the same thing. We're going to do, well, select everything with A, and then scale down with the S key followed by the X key. And I'm just going to do this, and then G with X, and almost perfect, but not quite. There we go. It looks okay, but I can see that this part doesn't seem to correspond properly. So I'm just going to select that particular area, which should show me what is being covered here on the texture. And it seems that I am a little bit like uh, basically overflowing and going into the black instead of the purple. So I'm going to select it and just move it over the Y axis a little bit, maybe a little bit more. Mm, mm, mm. That looks better. This is not going to be very visible anyway, but you can be as nitpicky as you want to be. If you want to spend more time, there we go. You can spend more time fiddling with it. It will probably take a little bit of practice. But eventually, you will have set up like your teeth and the horns or your beard or whatever you're working on. They should already be all placed properly here. Now, this is the information that Blender is saving. In this case, how the UVs are set up. So you're going to like have your model, and you will be able to export it as an FBX as normal. However, we still have to add the rest of the textures because currently we only have the diffuse. We still need to add, for example, the normals, which you can do very easily if you just have a program that, for example, uses the um, well, that just has the option of give me a second, has the options for opacity, right? Because you can just uh, make it a little bit semi-transparent and just like align everything as you can. So this is going to be the normal, and then I'm going to bring the normal for this one. And then the only detail that you have to keep in mind is that normals and diffuses have channel information, like the red, green, and blue and alpha channels are usually important for the normals and the diffuse. So any program is not going to cut it. You will probably need either Photoshop or perhaps Photopia. It has to be something that allows um, for different channels. And Photoshop itself, only Photoshop cannot do it. It needs the NVIDIA plugin in order to work with DDS, which is the right way to save this type of channel information. So when you are done um, working and setting up your multi, let me open the multi as well so you can look at it. But uh, when you are done with your multi and your normal, they will need to be saved as a DDS, which you can do here again with the NVIDIA plugin by doing save a copy. And then here you should be able to select that you want to save it as a DDS. I'm just going to do whatever here because it's a demonstration, but basically, once you save it, you are going to have this little menu, and you need to make sure that the format that you are saving this as is the 8888 or BGRA. This is a format that saves all of the different channel information and that works with text tools that we know of. So make sure that you do that. If for whatever reason you don't have access to Photoshop or anything else, feel free to message us in the quick questions section in Modding 101. We can probably help you figure that out. But this is an important step for a lot of things because these textures need to save that information. Um, but anyway, once you have done this, once you have all of your textures set up properly, so they have the same UVs as the diffuse that you got, you can go into text tools and open or import all of the different things to the faces, right? So uh, here I already set it up as phase B, but you can simply do it as ETC-B if you want, because that's usually the Reaper eyes. So whichever way you prefer, the point is that you have it here and you have a diffuse, a normal, and a multi. And then when you come here into the model and you import the face that you already have now in Blender with the correct UVs, you're going to import it and select in the open editor the make sure that it's the correct one. In this case, I would have to change it because it's the face B instead of the ETCB. But if you are only replacing the Reaper Eyes, just make sure that you remove the Reaper Eyes attribute. You don't want it to be here. I already did, right? I don't have any strange attributes here from the Reaper Eyes. And I import it. After I do that, I'm going to have my model. And if it's been done correctly, you will have horns and teeth, right? So that's what we got. Um, You might have to do perhaps force UV1 or clone UV1 to UV2. These ones can be used, but if you don't have any problems, I'd say don't touch them, right? If they don't seem to work, then it's not a bad idea to experiment exporting again with these, but it should work just fine, like I just did without any other options. Um, I think that is all. If you are doing something with this class and you have any questions or any problems, remember you can open a thread in Modding 101 and we can help you out. But I think that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching and good luck with all your projects.